Awesome. So to start us off, I would like to say a big welcome to Dr. Pushpa Wood and a big thank you for joining us for this conversation today, Pushpa. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and I get very excited to be able to have a conversation with you today. And to kick us off, I just want to give everyone a quick bio about Pushpa.
Just keep it short.
It's hard to keep short though. Your accolades and everything you've done is pretty impressive, but I will do my best to keep it short. Dr. Pushpa Wood is the Director of the Financial Education and Research Centre at Massey University. And she has a long history of adult and financial literacy advocacy. Go Pushpa. She has previously worked as the Education Manager at the Commission for Financial Capability and has worked in financial literacy across schools, tertiary and industry sectors. Dr. Pushpa's interests, our research interests, include identifying what motivates people to change their financial behaviour, and preparedness of women in planning for their future, and testing culturally appropriate evaluations tools. So some really interesting research areas there, Pushpa. It's an honour to have you with us today to share your abundant knowledge of financial literacy and to give us some tips and tricks about how we can make the most of our money. So Pushpa, a big welcome to you.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
And a big welcome to our attendees for joining us for this conversation today. To kick us off, before we hear from Pushpa and all the wisdom that she has to share, we would love to hear from you. So we have a quick couple of poll questions that I am going to launch, and audience and attendees, I would love to hear what you have to say about these few questions. You will see it appearing in the middle of your screen, and once you have answered those, we will share some of the results there. So anyone tuning in, if you could please have your say on the options that are appearing in front of you. Seeing some of those answers come in now. Appreciated, team. I'll just give that another 30 seconds or so. Awesome. Cool. I'm just going to end that poll and show a few of these results. So one of the first questions we asked was around how confident do you feel about managing your money? So we are edging towards the confident side, so very confident, and neither confident or unconfident. So that's awesome to see no one sitting in that unconfident place. Where did you learn your money skills? Someone learned at school, which is awesome. We are fortunate in New Zealand to now be having some great education tools in school. Self-taught and trial and error. Yeah, I think we probably all have done a little bit of that trial and error. And what areas of money are you most interested in? Fully across the spectrum here, with two highlight areas being how to save and budgeting. Yeah, interesting. Thanks for a little bit of participation there, team, and we're hoping that we can touch on some of those areas of interest for you today. To kick off the conversation, I would love to ask you firstly, Pushpa, what does financial well-being or financial health mean to you?
For me personally, financial health or financial well-being means that I can meet my day-to-day needs and obligations. I can plan and provide for my future, and I don't have to stress out about meeting my needs in a very simple way.
Yeah, thank you.
So if I can go to sleep in the night without having to worry about what tomorrow is going to look like in terms of money, then I will feel comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of us can feel into that, because I think a lot of us have we have good money stories and we have bad money
Mm,
stories. And when we know we've been maybe in that bad money story situation, we know, yeah, that feeling of stress or that weight on your shoulders or at night, you know, where your mind's racing is not a nice place to be. So yeah, coming at it with
exactly,
confidence. Yeah.
exactly.
Um, and I guess you've touched on it, but yeah, what are some of those benefits of being financially fit or financially healthy?
I guess the benefits will come down to what is your relationship with money and how are you actually viewing money in your
Mm,
day-to-day life. And I always sort of have a fun activity whenever I work with people to say, if your wallet could talk right now, what would it say about your relationship? Right. And you guys were running that on LinkedIn, I noticed. So I guess to me it is important to understand how you view money in your life and
mm,
how you use money in your life. So things like asking yourself some questions. Do you keep track of money? Do you know what you spent last week? Do you know what you spent last month? Do you know how much is in your bank account, in your
mm,
savings? Do you know how much debt you have at this point in time? Do you spend emotionally or do you spend rationally? Right.
mm,
So whenever you feel like spending, is it your heart that is ruling or is it your mind that is ruling? Is to
mm,
say, is it are you spending for feel good factor? All right. And
yeah.
when you are allocating your spending, your money, are you putting first preference on meeting all your needs first and then deciding on your wants, or you just randomly spend, right? One
Mm,
of the things I find quite interesting is that asking question to yourself, am I internally disciplined spender? Can I control my spending when I want to? Right?
mm,
Or do I need to have some external restrictions on me? Do I need to have some tools that can help me that whenever I feel like spending emotionally or on impulse, what
mm,
can I actually use to restrict me from that? So
mm,
having those kind of understanding about your own spending behavior, your own spending pattern, having understanding of how do you view money, what value does it place in your life, um,
mm,
does take you a long way in terms of your,
mm,
your your financial health, your health well-being. And then of course looking at it, do you understand the ins and outs of spending? Do you
mm,
understand what actually borrowing means?
yeah.
After pay versus, um, you know, whatever is
Yeah, yeah,
available
yeah,
to you, right?
yeah.
Is it better to buy from a truck as opposed to going
Mm,
to another provider? Is it better to borrow from a bank than somebody else? So it's
mm,
it's those kind of questions you need to continually. I mean, the whole world of money is becoming very complicated more and
mm,
more. So the more you can equip yourself with the knowledge and understanding, the better position you will be in
mm.
making decisions.
Nice. Thank you, Pushpa. I really like how you're touching on that awareness piece. And
Mm,
it's asking, I guess, and creating that time for personal reflection to understand, I guess, okay, yeah, what are my money values, and what is my relationship with money, and some of those spending behaviors or habits.
mm.
Are you able to share any insight into, I guess, what might make up someone's relationship with money? Like, what are the things that cause someone's relationship with money?
I think the two, three factors play a role in your relationship with your money,
Mm,
right? The very first important thing is your knowledge about how money works, right? How
mm,
the world of money actually operates, your upbringing. So what value base have you actually learned from your family, your whānau? Where is your family whānau has been placing value on that? And at home, have you been used to of making individual decisions versus collective decisions? Like I
mm,
grew up back home in India. So as kids, we were consulted by our parents, but the final decision making was theirs, what they thought was appropriate. But because by virtue of we were being consulted, we then felt kind of obliged to and part of that decision making. So whatever decision was made, even though we weren't happy about it, that we weren't going to get new clothes for next 3 months, we weren't very happy about it, but we worked within those parameters because that's what we collectively agreed. And that's what Mum had explained to us, the benefits and the risks of that.
Wow.
Right? So it's having that kind of, I still feel my observation is that we still do not give enough credit to children and to our young people to actually understand, make decisions and contribute to decision making. So we either tell them this is what we want you to learn, right, from an adult perspective, but it needs to be looked at as from child's perspective as well. What is it important to them? What do they want to learn? Right? So that plays an important role in that. And to me, I usually say to all adults in my life who I run into professionally or in community basis to say, if there's only one thing you can teach your child, forget about anything else. If there's one thing you can teach them about delayed gratification. If you can teach them that, that really sets them up on a really strong, positive path, because they can then learn the value of waiting for the things that you want.
Interesting. I love that, Pushpa. And yeah, I love the words of wisdom when it comes to parenting and yeah, how to set up your children for success. If someone were, say, if someone, some of us have a relationship with money that we're maybe not so proud of, are there things that you could suggest that would be helpful for us to maybe recreate that relationship that we have with money?
I think the key thing will be to look at is, how are you viewing money right now, and how would you like to view it? Right. So what is your current relationship? Are you impulse buyer? Right. Are you spending money to feel good? Right. Are you spending money to actually giving away to somebody or making somebody else feel good? Are you spending money on needs, or are you spending money to show off? Right. What is it that you actually, what is your relationship? Has it broken down to the extent where you are so totally detached with your money that you know it's coming in and you know it's going out, but you have no idea what is coming in and what is going out and on what things? If it reaches to that stage, then you need to start to think about, what do I need to put in place to bring it back on track? So the very first thing is to start tracking where you're spending your money in. What is it? Keep a spending diary for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, preferably 4 weeks and longer, because that will show you the pattern of your spending. Now, whether you're spending in cash or whether you're spending on your POS or flashing out your credit card, depending on however you're living your life, but having that track of, and then doing some self-analysis of where is that money has gone. What have I spent? What proportion has gone on needs? What proportion has gone on wants? What proportion was budgeted for and what was not budgeted for, right? I mean, for your generation, budgeting is a kind of old-fashioned thing, you know. For my generation, budgeting is a life skill to save you from disasters, right? So there's a very different attitude. For me, I for example, I have a budget that I operate on, but I also have what I call the slush spending money, which is my make me feel good, and I'm not accountable to anybody in this world for spending that money. Right? Nice. And I put aside small amount each week. And whenever I feel like, when I'm really feel like spending or going on a retail therapy, that's what that slush fund is for, right? If you're undisciplined spender, you can always look at opening an account in your bank, which is invisible on your internet banking. So you're only putting money in rather than taking money out. But I think the key thing is you need to have a mental change. You need to have a change in your thinking where you need to train yourself to say, I am in charge of the money. Money is not in charge of me.
Wow.
Right?
I
So
love that.
I am the boss
Quite
here,
that.
right?
Yeah.
I am the boss here. So that's the other exercise I usually say to people, to say, treat the money in your wallet as your employees, right? So you are an employer, they are your employees. And as an employer, it is your responsibility to make sure you get the best value out of each of your employee, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to look at their skill set, you need to look at their strengths and how best you can get that value out of that employee. Same applies to the dollar, all right? How best you can spend that dollar that is in your wallet, that it gives you the maximum benefit. Right? So
that.
in other words, stay engaged with your money. Don't leave that responsibility to somebody else.
And I think, yeah, that point that you're bringing up around, money coming in, money going out, and you just don't know where it goes. What has been really interesting to see that we've found is around some research around like different pay brackets and where people's financial well-being across the different spectrums of pay brackets, and that poor financial health isn't something that's just focused, is just found in those that are have a low income, but those that are across the pay bracket, because it's that awareness piece, right? Money's coming in, money's going out, but you don't really know where it is. But yeah, would love if you've got anything extra to share there around, I guess, where poor financial health is found across the different pay brackets.
See, what I have noticed is that there's a group that just simply does not have enough money, full stop.
Yeah.
Right? They just do not have enough money to meet all the needs. That I'm not that much worried about wants. My priority is needs. So if you do not have enough money to meet all your needs, what are your options? Right? Very limited, right? So you have essentially two options. Either you look at options of improving your income level, right? Or you need to look at, is there anything at all that I can do to reduce my spending level? Essentially, there's nothing more.
Yeah.
Right? The only third option is you borrow to meet your needs. Right? And that's where the biggest risk is, when you start to borrow money to meet your needs.
Yes.
Right? Because that means there is something is not going right. And that's where the responsibility lies on the rest of the society and the government to make sure that our citizens do have sufficient money to actually meet all their needs. Then there's a second group who do have sufficient money to meet their needs. They just can't be bothered. Right? So there's that group who spends because they again, their relationship with money is very different. So what concerned me last year, for example, when in the third week of lockdown, people even on higher income were complaining that they were struggling to make ends meet. Right? That really concerned me, that as a nation, if we cannot even have sufficient emergency funds to meet our needs for 2 or 3 weeks, then we do really need to do something very serious about it and need to change our habits, our thinking. We have, I guess, as a nation, we've got so used to living beyond our means and using the plastic card, which keeps us so remote from our relationship.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pushpa. And I'd love to touch back on that point that you talked about, how budgeting isn't cool or isn't sexy for maybe this younger generation. Is there some parts or aspects of money that are sexy and are fun for maybe the younger generation to get excited about?
I think the key thing to get excited about for your generation is that you are the boss. You should be making the decisions. You should be deciding how your money is spent and where your money is spent, provided right? And there's a big provided you have a jolly good understanding of what is coming in and what is going out, right? You need to develop, there are lots of apps now out there where you can just simply, every time you spend some money, it gets recorded, right? Every time you spend some money, you record. Most of the banks have got something, one thing or another, the tools are there for you to actually look at. The sexy thing about is I had a student last year, which I gave him a challenge, and I said to him, if I can save you $50 by you spending 1 hour every week on your budget, would you be interested? Oh, he said, oh, yes, of course, because I don't get that when I work part-time.
Yeah, that's a good hourly rate.
So if you have a $50, that means it saves you about 2.5 to 3 hours of work.
Yeah.
Right? Part-time work. So he was quite excited about it. He thought I was going to hand over the money to him. I said, the challenge is you need to actually now sit down and work out your budget. You need to look at what insurance you have. Are you in the right place? Are you paying right? Are you shopping in the right places? Are you shopping the right things, right amount? All of those kind of things. And your task is to actually look at that and come back to me the following week. So he came back following week, and I said to him, so have we managed to sort of make ends meet in your budget, or are we still struggling? Because that was a challenge. And he said, well, you know, you will be pleasantly surprised. And I said, what do you mean pleasantly surprised? He said, you'll be pleasantly surprised that when I actually sat down and worked at the budget and looked at where my money was going, and I pulled out all my, you know, FPOS receipts and that. And then I decided I don't need this. I don't need to buy coffee every day. I said, you were making the decision, or no, I made the decision. So I said, so are we making ends meet? He said, not only we're making ends meet, we've got $75 now spare here.
You.
All right, that was his own budget. So I said to him, now this $75, you investing 1.5 hour in your budget, keeping track of that, right? If you spend that on that, it has saved you 3.5, 4 hours of part-time work and wherever you're working.
Yeah, wow.
Right? So the choices, you know, when you start to see keeping track of your money or making your budget is as an investment in yourself, an investment in your time, when you start to see it as a positive contribution to your well-being, as opposed to a chore, that's when the fun begins.
Nice. I love that. That is an extremely motivating story. And I love how it's, you know, we're so focused on doing all the time, right? Being at work, being paid for that work, but just stepping back and taking that reflective moment can be so powerful. So, you know, I love that story, Pushpa.
Thank you.
I would love to hear any thoughts you have around some of the common mistakes that people make when it comes to money. Or maybe
I guess
a long conversation.
the common mistakes people make is when they spend without thinking, when they spend without planning. Right? I saw a nice thing, like it, I need it. Right? And one of the, especially your generation, and I've had a daughter in my house, so I know what I'm talking about, and I've got young people around me, is justifying your wants into needs. Your generation is very good at that.
Oh no.
I mean, to me, yes, good quality shoes is a need, right? But is Nike a need or is a want?
Yeah.
Right. So brand versus, so it's looking at asking yourself the question, I need a good quality shoes, but do I need a branded shoes? Now, fantastic. If you like branded shoes, go and buy them, provided you're not borrowing to buy them.
Yeah.
Right. If you got, like me, if you got a slush fund and you feel like sort of spending that slush fund into and buying a, you know, a branded thing because it makes you feel good, why not? But if you're borrowing to do that and then paying interest on it, Is it really a pleasure when it starts to show that 200 might be 250 by the time you paid?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's kind of that. And other thing I find is when you buy because everybody else is buying. So it's living like Joneses. So everybody else buys the morning tea and the student cafeteria, so I need to buy it as well. Right? Or everybody is buying the lunch, so I need to buy. Everybody has a coffee, so I can't, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's trying to look cool for everybody else, but at what cost?
And it's that, yeah, just being a product of our environment, right? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. If other people are doing that in my environment, I will be doing the same things. And that comes into so many things, not just money, but
I mean, the other example was I had a young lady who wanted to buy, she was really pestering her parents about buying iPhone 10, and she had iPhone 8. All right. So it was absolutely necessary. It was a dire necessity for her to have that. And I said to the parents, look, send it to me. I'll have a quick chat with her. So when she came to see me, I said, I'm not going to ask you to not spend, if you feel you need it, hey, why not? Who am I to tell you that you don't? It's your choice. I said, but I just want you to do a quick exercise with me, and then please go ahead and make a decision. So I got her to get a piece of paper, fold it in two. So I said, on left hand side, write down everything iPhone 8 can do at the moment for you. Everything, list everything iPhone 8 can do. She did that. And I said, on right hand side, now write down for me everything that iPhone 10 and only iPhone 10 can do. Right?
Yeah.
Because I just wanted her to realize the point of difference between the two. So when she looked at it, she wrote that down. And so I said, right, so we've got 5 things that only iPhone 10 and only iPhone 10 can do. She said, yes, that's right. So how much will it now cost you to buy iPhone 10? Divide that with 5, and then make a decision whether it is worth your while to spend this much money for these 5 things.
Wow. I like that exercise.
Right? So it's having that kind of conversation even among peer groups, because we are influenced regardless of age. Of course, young ones get more influenced because they haven't got the life experience like my gray hair have, right? So, but we do all get influenced by our peers. We need to be looking at, yes, it is very good to be influenced by peers, but within my means. Right? I was taught one lesson, and it's always stayed with me by my grandma, who always said, if you have only one piece of bread on your plate, make sure you save half for tomorrow, unless you are 110% sure where the tomorrow's bread is coming from. Right?
Yeah.
So I've always remembered that, never to spend everything that I have got. I must save something for tomorrow.
Nice. I really like those couple of quite simple exercises, right? It doesn't need to be really, really complicated, but those couple of simple.
It have to be fun, complicated, because the thing is, there's no point saying to your child, don't do this, without giving them the reason. I work quite a lot with parents, how to involve your children in money conversations, how to actually give them help them to get some good habits. More you involve and more you give them responsibility and challenge for saving or for living within means, you will be pleasantly surprised how innovative they can be.
Yeah, and it's so empowering too, right?
It's very empowering.
Very empowering and confident building. Thank you so much for all your wisdom, Pushpa. I'd just like to share with the audience that we will be having a Q&A session kicking off soon. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box, and you have the amazing opportunity to ask Dr. Pushpa any of your burning questions. So make the most of it for sure. And while we're waiting for those Q&A questions to come through. I'd love to hear from you around how you think, I guess, financial well-being fits in with overall well-being.
I think financial well-being sits at the core of overall well-being. Financial stress can permeate through different parts of your life. So if you're financially stressed, you're mentally stressed. If you're mentally stressed, you're physically stressed. If you're physically stressed, it's going to have an overarching impact on your whole body, your whole well-being. If you are stressed, your stress levels are going to then move outside you within the family environment, right? So, and that impacts on your family environment, and especially if you're keeping everything to yourself and not sharing with the family, so they can contribute or they can help or they can at least provide. The money stress is a real stress, right? It can, apart from mental health, it can impact on your physical health, because if you don't have sufficient money, you're not going to buy healthy food. Right? Healthy food is expensive, right? If you go into the supermarkets, the plain white bread is a lot cheaper than the whole grain bread, which we want people to eat, right? Looking at what are the alternatives available. You know, growing few vegetables, even in pot plants, can give you that feeling of well-being. But even that costs, right? And that's where you need to look at your neighborhood. That's where you need to start to have that community feeling that we used to have. And thank God, or depends which way you look at it. COVID did bring out some of those community-focused, thinking and activities. Maybe we need to actually start to preserve them, and we start to really encourage them more. We do need to be aware of the impact continuous money worry is having on different parts of our well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Pushpa. It is very core to that overall well-being for sure. And you did mention COVID briefly there. I would love to hear your thoughts on how you believe that COVID has, the impacts of COVID have changed how people are interacting with money, or if there has been any changes from your...
Yes, my observation has been, and the Commission's research also showed that some people first time realized that they can save money, all right? Although it was a forced money saving, but they did realize that the world did not fall apart if they did not have coffee from the cafeteria. The good coffee, what they could buy from supermarket, has still kept them alive, right? And the world hasn't fallen apart because they didn't buy the lunches from outside. Right. So there have been those habits. It has given people opportunity to actually examine their own spending habits. And some people for the first time have managed to actually save. The other thing I've observed is first time people have realized the impact of their habits on their long-term financial well-being. Seeing that people could not even survive 3 weeks or 4 weeks without income coming in has actually given some people a real jolt, a real shock. It has also, my observation is it has created a new group of vulnerable people in our society who we never thought of, right? And the way I look at it, if you look at the beneficiaries, they were there before COVID, they were there during COVID, and they will be there after COVID, right? So things that have changed for them is the intensity of hardship, but the hardship was there for them, right? They were in the hardship in the first place to go and benefit. right? So there's that group who was there, and they are the best equipped in living with the small amounts that they have. Then you have people with 160, 200K salary who all of a sudden realized that they've lost the job. They have never had any dealings with the Ministry of Social Development. They have never, ever had to look for how am I going to pay my bills tomorrow, right? They had no idea how to actually ask for help, let alone using the help. Right? And then you had senior citizens who have planned their whole life, their retirement, they've saved hard, and all of a sudden the certain amount of the income level has gone down because the interest rates at the moment are so low, right? So they needed to rebudget their own spending.
Yeah, interesting. Really interesting.
Those are just some of them, and the biggest, I guess, the most brunt was borne by women, because they were the ones who were staying at home, not only managing the household, but also managing all the stresses of everybody else in the household. They were in the employment area, which had been shut down, right? They were already on lower income anyway. And so there are those kinds. So we did produce a very short paper on changing faces of vulnerability. If anybody is interested, I can send the link to you guys. And that was just thinking, who are the new vulnerable groups?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And yeah, tomorrow we are having a conversation with Sarah Kelsey from the One Up Project talking about women and money. So it will be interesting to discuss further with her around the impacts of COVID and specifically on women. We have a question coming in from the audience, Pushpa, and the question is, what are some of the activities we can do as a community to continue the money conversations? Brilliant.
Oh, good. It's an interesting question. I think one of the things as a community we can do is to actually engage parents as much as possible in conversations. How are they coping? What type of conversations they are having at home? And what can, especially those who are financial mentors, experts who know a little bit about money, to say, could we come and help you? Right? Other thing is organize activities where you start to discuss about budget, right? So if you're organizing a community activity, let's say you want to organize an afternoon tea, all right, to bring all the community people together, because we want to see how everybody is feeling post-COVID. In that, involve people to say, okay, so how many people do we think we can cater for? Where are we going to go? How much do we need to, are we going to supply the afternoon tea, or are people going to bring themselves? It's just having even that simple activity starts to talk about the budget, all right? How much per person do we need to spend? All right. Should we, oh, okay, where is the money going to come from? Well, we don't have any budget, right? We don't have any money, right? So we have no fund. So how are we going to have this activity? What is the next possible option do we have? Well, everybody will bring a plate, right?
Yeah.
It's having that kind of starting at a very basic level and then elevating it as people start to feel comfortable talking about money.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, creating that conversation around money, hey, really removing the stigma around it and opening it up to be that normal conversation, and we can all learn so much from one another too. And if we're having that,
very much so, very much so. I heard quite a few years ago, I heard a very, very interesting, I guess the example somebody gave in one of the conferences I was attending, and he said, the day we will start to think about money like we brush our teeth in the morning, that will be the day we will start to feel very comfortable having open conversations. In other words, it is part and parcel of our being, and it is part and parcel of our habit. Right?
Mm.
There's always a dilemma. Then, how much should I tell my child? How much should I keep them sheltered about it? Well, if you are really living in a hardship, right? A child living in the household is not blind. They
Yeah.
are seeing the stresses that are there. So even if you don't want to involve them and
Mm.
don't want to keep them sheltered, you're not really going to be able to keep them sheltered. So
Mm.
the best approach is to sit down with them and say, these are some of the challenges. I need your help.
Mm. I love that, and that creating that habit for the children as well to be part of the conversation, and that
Exactly.
flow through with them.
Exactly.
In life.
I mean, there will be a lot of people who disagree with it, but I feel quite strongly that if they're part of the family, then they need to be part of the whole conversation, especially
Right.
if it is going to have impact on them.
Absolutely. And audience, if there's any other last questions, please get them in. But while we are wrapping up, I guess I just want to highlight level the main tips and tricks that you've shared today, Pushpa, around how people can make good decisions when it comes to money. What I've heard is, firstly, it's an awareness. So really taking the time to look at your spending or keep a spending diary to see where your money is going, and what you're spending your money on, and then making a plan based on that spending. And what are those other key tips and tricks that people should be taking away from this conversation?
I just want to share one key, one of the tip I use for saving. All right.
Cool.
Two things. I still deal in cash, by the way, so it's easier. So one of the key tips is, if you are really struggling to keep tabs on your money, start using cash for 3-4 weeks. Right. Put away your cards, withdraw regular amount that you need to spend, and you will find your habit starts to you start to question yourself, because once the money is gone, it's gone. Right. So for example, every Monday I give myself pocket money, which I've been doing for years. Right. So every Monday my wallet has a same amount of pocket money. And then the following Monday, I tip that wallet out on my dining table. Whatever is left from that pocket money goes in my savings jar, and I put the same amount in my wallet again. Right. So it's each week. And as that saving grows, each week I start to spend less and less, because I want to see my savings growing higher.
Yeah.
Right? And that is my slush money. When I go overseas, I spend it. When I feel like not being responsible to anyone, that's where I do it. Right? It's the motivation of saving. The second tip I use for myself is, every time I get a $5 note, it goes into my separate wallet as a saving wallet. Right. So end of the year, you will be surprised how many $5 notes I have accumulated there. Right. So it's kind of making that conscious effort and be actually saving. But you can set some goals that by end of August, I will be able to buy myself a new pair of trousers, right? How much does it cost? How much do I need to save? And therefore, right?
No.
So saving is important, but so is rewarding yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So set yourself some goals, and goals that are achievable, and that are so the bottom line is, save regularly, even if it is $2 a week. Right? So training your mind into that saving habit of not spending the last dollar is more important than the amount.
Yeah, nice. I love that.
The mentality.
Yeah, it is. It's creating those habits and behaviors, right? Because
right.
It's all about the habits and behaviors, and maybe less about how much money is coming in, right? And I love that idea about using cash for a few weeks. That would be, I think that would be a very eye-opening exercise for a lot of us, particularly if we're regularly, just tapping our phone to pay for things. That would be a really good exercise. That is going to wrap our session up for today. Pushpa, a big thank you from myself and Seema and the team at Spring. It's always so lovely to have a conversation with you, and yeah, your abundant knowledge and wisdom is much appreciated, as I'm sure the audience has appreciated it as well. And for everyone that has tuned in today or is watching this recording, a big thank you for taking the time to prioritize your financial well-being, and to and increase that knowledge so that you can increase your own abundance when it comes to money. So yeah, big thank you to everyone that's tuned in. We will be sending out a recording soon, and thank you everyone. Ka kite anō.
Thank you very much from me as well to you, to the team, and to the audience. Ka kite anō.